Hey, with you Evening Story Channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it.
Michael had long dreamed of opening his own business. The choice fell on the restaurant business. He had no money to open his own restaurant, so he had to take out a loan. They were supposed to open a month ago, but the paperwork dragged on. And now finally, the long-awaited day has come. The opening of the restaurant was the most anticipated event in their small town. So many people came that day. The cooks in the kitchen could barely keep up with the orders. The waiters were running back and forth without stopping, and at the end of the shift, they were already falling off their feet. The receptionist smiled sweetly as she escorted guests into the hall and seated them at tables. Michael happily walked around the hall, approached each guest in turn, introduced himself, handed a bottle of champagne. "Thank you for coming to our opening. We hope that you will like everything and you will become our frequent guests." There was a festive atmosphere all around. Michael spared no expense and ordered live music. A young singer pleased visitors with her pleasant voice. "Everything is fine?" asked Helen's spouse. Approaching Michael, "Do you look restless?" The man smiled tiredly. "Everything is fine, just tired. The last month has dragged on endlessly. I still can't believe we opened. Now I'm worried if I've missed any details." The wife hugged her husband. "You did well, made every effort to make this restaurant the most luxurious place in our city. You got great cooks, a receptionist who knows his business. And if there are any problems, you fix them in no time. You're gonna do great. I believe in you." The man looked at Helen with gratitude. "We did it together thanks to your invaluable support. I was able to open the restaurant after all. If it hadn't been for you, I would have given up at the very beginning. It's been a few years." Things were going well. The man stuck to his business plan, so the restaurant brought in good money. Helen was always there to support her husband, but one day she had to go away, leaving her husband alone for a year. The woman had a sibling named Kathy. She was only 21 years old, but she had already become a sought-after professional. All in all, she was a very gifted person, but Kathy ended up in prison. At that time, she worked for a large firm, which, as it turned out later, was engaged in fraud. When the police found out about it, checks started. The employers framed their young employee and pinned all the blame on her. The woman was arrested. The court found her guilty. That's when Helen had to leave town. I had to support her mother. The news had taken a toll on her. Michael was sympathetic to his wife's departure. He knew Kathy was sure that she was imprisoned without reason. He was also worried about his mother-in-law. Leaving, Helen said, "I'll be back soon. Everything will be all right. My sister will be released and everything will be like before. The main thing is to keep everything under control. You've been too loyal to your employees lately. Don't let them take advantage of that." The man hugged his wife. "Don't worry. My loyalty won't affect our work. You go ahead. Tell your mom, hello or bad luck." His wife left, and Michael kept replaying her words in his head. Indeed, the staff had been treating him differently lately, especially the kitchen staff. But the waiters were not lagging behind. Customers complained that they had to wait a long time for dishes, that some waiters allowed themselves to be rude, and the food is quite often salty or with some strange flavor. Michael made a remark to the staff, but that was the end of it. Sometimes he threatened that he would fine, but he never carried out his threats. The offender began to justify himself and press on pity. The man did not have the courage to deprive him of part of his salary. But one day his patience came to an end. He heard rumors that the kitchen staff cheated. He substitutes quality products that he purchased for the restaurant for cheaper, dubious quality. Because of this, customers were dissatisfied with the dishes. Attendance dropped dramatically. Profits too. It made him very angry, but it was just a rumor. Because of what happened, she needed a reboot, so she decided to stay with her sister for a while. "I hope you don't mind." Michael was asked with a nice smile. The man always treated his student well, so he gladly opened the doors of his house for her. The next day, Michael went to work first thing in the morning, leaving the women at home, single. "Kathy is staying with us for now," devoting time to her. "You can come back to work after she leaves." Said goodbye to his wife. She didn't mind, but at lunchtime, she decided to check the financial statements for the time she'd been away, and the numbers stunned her. It turned out that recently, the restaurant has been working almost at a loss. The woman wondered how and why Michael did not tell her anything about it. She decided to wait for her husband from work and seriously talk to him. Michael did not expect such a question. He thought that Kathy's arrival would distract his wife from work. I just didn't want to upset you. I had to give our cook a raise. I just didn't have any other choice. He told her everything from A to Z. To say Helen was angry is an understatement. She was furious. She was angry that her husband had turned out to be so mildly lukewarm that he had deceived her. But even angrier was the fact that the staff had done this to their boss. You realize that it can't be left like that. You let your guard down, and they immediately sit on your neck. They're going to screw you over all the time, which will then rewrite our business to them. Michael stood sullenly with his head down. He didn't know what to say to his wife. At that moment, there was a gentle knock on the door of their room. It was Kathy. I heard you screaming, so I thought I'd see if everything was all right. No, nothing's all right, the sister replied irritably. She told me everything Michael had just told her. Kathy took a chance. Wow, the story is certainly very entertaining, but you can't just leave it at that. And that's what I'm telling him. Alan exclaimed, I know you didn't want to do business yet, but I'm afraid we can't do it without your help. You of all people know how to pull a business out of the abyss. Help us out. The woman promised that she would think about it and give an answer in the morning. Michael Selenkov worried whether her sister would be able to come up with a plan, so they practically didn't sleep a wink all night. In the morning, Kathy walked into the kitchen, was very pleased with herself. The couple looked at her expectantly. Her sister couldn't stand it. But don't be silent. Tell them what you've come up with. Kathy told them her plan. The couple liked it. You'll both have to go out of town, let's say on vacation. Your employees will have no way of contacting you. I'll take care of the rest. When the boss arrived at the restaurant with some stranger and the employees were surprised, the men gathered everyone together, said, Meet Kathy, our new manager. I'm traveling on urgent business in my absence. She'll be in charge. Any decisions she makes are mine. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, without saying another word. Michael took Kathy to his office. After a few minutes, he came out and told the employees that I was leaving. If you have any questions, please contact Kathy. See you later. The cooks in the kitchen grinned. The new manager looked to be no more than 20 years old, decided it would be even easier to make a profit now. Immediately after the boss left, they sent one of them to meet her, but he didn't make it in time. There was a command to reconvene in the hall. The new manager wanted to get to know each member of the team. Hello. How do you all know each other? My name is Kathy. I'll be your immediate supervisor for the next 2 weeks. I'm warning you right off the bat. I don't do favors, and I will not tolerate negligence. Every slip-up you make will result in dismissal. I'm not Michael. I'm not going to indulge you. Don't look at me because I'm young. Where to get the evidence? Michael decided to install cameras in the kitchen so that he could keep an eye on the cooks. Naturally, they didn't like it. They rioted, saying that the cameras were an interference in their lives and that they would no longer work as long as they were being watched. Due to his character, the man had to give in. In the evening, he called Helen and told her what had happened in the restaurant. Michael, what are you doing? What kind of invasion of privacy? They're at work. You, as the boss, have the right to install cameras where they're needed. Don't let them get away with it. You're the boss, and you make the rules. The next day, the workers came in the morning and set up the security cameras. Things got better for a while. Customers started coming back. The hall was full of visitors again, but a few months later, things went bad again. The kitchen workers could not find a place where the camera could not see them and continued their machinations. Michael was again desperate and could not fire them. After all, things were generally very bad with cooks in a small town. If he risked firing employees, then already in-quality products could not save his restaurant. Then he took a risky step, decided to talk to the cooks frankly. He offered to increase their salaries, but on the condition that the food would no longer be lost. The staff looked at each other in silence. They knew that the boss would not dare to fire them, because then there would simply be no one to work. So they decided to take advantage of that. They demanded from Michael twice the salary he offered. The man had to agree to their terms. He decided not to tell his wife about it. Knew she wouldn't be thrilled. Before she left, Helen did the grocery shopping and never had any problems with it. The husband was afraid his wife would decide to leave her mother and come back. That would mean he couldn't do it without her. That's why he never told his wife. The increase in his bar tab had hit his pocketbook hard. But still the profit was greater than before. Michael breathed a sigh of relief. His plan had worked, but he could no longer trust his employees. Meanwhile, Helen reported that her sister had been released. Imagine Kathy's lawyer found a witness who testified against the company, and the sister was completely exonerated. "I'll be home tomorrow. I hope you're glad." Michael, of course, was overjoyed at the news. He missed Helen very much, but at the same time I was worried because he would have to admit that he had almost lost control of the staff. The next day, Michael's wife called. "I'm coming over with my sister. I want to invite her to our restaurant. Let her try our military chefs." "That's fine. But I have a counter-proposal. I'll ask our receptionist to arrange for home delivery. The little picture's tired. Maybe she wants to spend the evening at home. She's got to try the chef's specialties. But we'll go to a restaurant next time." That evening, the three of them sat at a perfectly set table. Kathy loved it. "Your chef is really good. His dish is a work of art." Michael smiled proudly. He didn't want to fall on his face in the dirt and talk about his problems, so he began to praise. "We only employ professionals, the best in this town. But what's all this about us? Tell me, how did you manage to get out of prison, and what do you plan to do next?" "Honestly, I'm not planning anything yet. I want to rest a bit, gather my thoughts. I've always considered myself a business person and thought I could pull off a setup. But I guess I was wrong, so I'm not taking on any big projects. It's too expensive. It cost me to work with a big company. Kathy was an executive. She was great at what she did. Worked with a lot of companies, helping to take their business to the next level. She had a great commercial streak. So many companies dreamed of making her their employee, but she never stayed anywhere for more than a year. She had a creative nature, so after completing her task, she would get up, uninterested, and take on another project. I have plenty of experience with staff." Kathy finished her speech and introduced everyone, waiting for a glance. "I hope everyone understood me. Now let's get to work. Here's the other thing. I've been working in this field for a long time, so don't even think about making personal contacts with me. I haven't been a presenter for a long time. I'm all about the work, and I can meet guys elsewhere." The chefs looked at each other in surprise. How did she know about their plan? Apparently, this woman was not as simple and naive as she seemed at first glance. 2 weeks flew by. Michael and Helen had a wonderful vacation. The man tried several times to call his relative to find out how things were at work, but his wife forbade it. We agreed not to make any calls. The spouses were returning from vacation, excitedly in anticipation, hoping that Kathy had succeeded. After dropping off the house, the suitcases went to the restaurant. Stepping inside, their mouths parted, and there wasn't a single free table. They were greeted at the entrance by a girl they didn't know. "I'm sorry, there are no free seats. Everything is booked a week in advance." At that moment, Kathy, who was tending the hall with an important look, noticed her sister. She turned to the girl. "Remember, these people are your immediate superiors." She took Helen and Michael under the arms and led them into the office. "I've done a complete rebranding of your restaurant. As you may have noticed, there are new employees, and not just at the front. When you see who works in your kitchen, you'll be very surprised. I've read the expenses and revenues, and I've come to the conclusion that you have a lot of extra people. If you downsize, the work will be executed just as efficiently, but less costly. As for the kitchen, now the young, promising chef, my friend Paul, is cooking for your guests. By the way, he's already the winner of many international awards. He is also quite popular on social networks. People come here even just to look at him. Once an hour, he leaves his kitchen. He goes out into the hall, chooses a visitor, and cooks in front of everyone in front of them a personalized dish from the chef. Can you see for yourself how effective that is? As for the previous chefs, I fired every single one of them. And to stop them from blackmailing you again, I threatened to turn them in to the police for extortion. I think they realized I wasn't to be trifled with, so they left." Kathy held out a folder. "These are the financial statements for the last 2 weeks." Helen grabbed the papers and took a quick look at the figures. Profits had more than quadrupled, and that in such a short period of time. That was a win. Finally, Michael's business was back on its feet and starting to generate revenue. The number of customers increased. Reservations were booked a month in advance. The restaurant became a favorite place for weddings and banquets. During the time spent at the restaurant, Kathy realized that she missed her work, and since she had already accomplished her mission here, she returned home. After all, there were many more companies waiting for her to help.